Welcome, all fellow wannabes. Welcome to the show. You are listening to the Wannabe Critic Podcast, and I am one of your hosts, Gabriel Fast. Joining me today is Ashley Barrett from. Is it? Can we technically say Supergiant, or is it? Do I just say this is just Ashley Barrett? I mean, because
I think it's been 10 years, so I think we go Supergiant by this point.
Yeah, I was looking, I of course, I try and do my research as much as possible. And I was like well, she has to have done stuff outside of, Supergiant and stuff like that. And I was looking and, and I'd heard stories, I'd heard Darren and other podcast interviews kind of talk about y'all's background and stuff like that. But, I did find your YouTube channel as well. And I saw that and I was like, oh, okay, there we go. Awesome.
Oh, no.
But, no, it's good. It's good stuff. I enjoyed it.
I'm so glad.
Thank you so much for agreeing to come on. It really means a lot. I'm trying to hold together like my fanboy thing, because I'm a big fan of Supergiant, and I've been not to be weird, but I've been harmonizing with you for like 8 years now. So
I love it.
Yeah. So this is really a treat for me to have you on the show. But
that's awesome. Harmonizing is my favorite thing to do probably in the world. So I get you.
Yeah, well, you're good at it. So I'm like, it's crazy how it seems like you and Darren Korb's voice were like meant to go together. It's just amazing. Like I pre-ordered the special vinyl that y'all did at Abbey Road.
Yay.
And yeah. I'm excited to, whenever that gets here, I've been listening to the digital version of it, for a while now, and just to hear y'all's, what y'all do, and the group you were with, during at Abbey Road. Did I call it Abbey Hall? I didn't mean to. I meant Abbey Road.
No, you said Abbey Road.
Okay, good. I've been listening to it for a while, and it's like, God, it hits just as hard as it did the first time I played Bastion, especially that last track on the record. And it's just cool. It's cool to have you here. So,
well, thank you for having me. Yeah, it's been a cool journey, and I love to do stuff like this, and I'm super proud of that album. I think it's going to be, it's already out, but once you hear it on vinyl, I feel like it's going to be even more magical.
Yeah, I keep waiting. I'm like, man, I cannot wait to spin this like over and over again, so it's I know it's going to be a treat. I'm super excited, but
yay.
Like I said, we had talked a little bit, off mic, and, tried to, I was like, hi, my name's Gabe. I'm a huge fan. Try not to make it weird, that type of thing. And, it's really cool. It's cool of you to agree to do stuff like this. I've been seeing you kind of pop up at, other places. I was out and about running some errands, and I saw you and Darren Korb had done a live stream performance, right? And for whatever reason, my internet I wasn't able to catch it because my internet was like messing up and stuff. But did you guys, was it kind of nice to kind of reconvene to work together again, amidst all this COVID craziness?
Yeah, we've done a few of those kind of like virtual shows since COVID. So it's always nice to see him on the other side of the screen, because we used to spend so much time together in person. So yeah, that one was fun because we got to do like a recording. So it was like, less pressure. It wasn't like all live stream. And then we also got to do it live to introduce and say hello and accept an award. So I feel like once this pandemic is going to be over, we will have locked in completely how to do this virtual stuff. And then, hopefully we won't have to do it anymore. But yeah, it's been a wild ride, especially since Hades came out in the pandemic, the full version.
Yeah, well, and that's, shout out to Hades too for, we were kind of talking about the BAFTAs today. I mean, what's it up to right now? I mean, or how many did it win today? Like,
we won 5 today for the BAFTAs, which is insane, including best game, which is just like, you see the competitors. I don't know. I mean, it's mind blowing for me because we started with Bastion, in 2009, 2010, and it's just like grown so crazily that you couldn't even imagine that to be a thing. It really doesn't feel like real life.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't even click with me at the time that, the BAFTAs would be whenever I reached out to you about this, about doing this, I didn't even think about the BAFTAs. You know what I mean? I wasn't on my radar. But it's kind of cool to be able to talk with you and kind of get your initial reaction, and that has to feel good. I think about, I've heard, I feel like I've heard the story a million times, and it's one of those things where you don't want to ask the same questions that have already been asked, but just because I know the story doesn't mean that everyone else does.
Sure.
And it's did you ever think that you'd be here right now, like feeling this way whenever you showed up to record in that closet and like do those vocals for Bastion?
No, I mean, it's so crazy. So Darren and I met in New York, but we had been connected via childhood friends. We were both from the Bay Area in California. So we met in New York. We were both living there, and he asked me to do some like random things, totally not video game related. This is like pre Supergiant games. And we had just a really great connection. I felt like he really got my voice, and like we had fun kind of playing around with some stuff. And then he called me and said, hey, I'm starting this new thing. It's a video game company. Like, would you want to sing on a tune? And I was just like, yeah. I mean, at that point, I'm living in New York, just like, I want to do anything anyone ever asked me to do, any music stuff, like, let's just go. But I honestly thought, and I've said this in so many interviews, but like, I thought that it was going to be like digital techno Mario Brothers music. Like, I just didn't know what like this world was. And I also feel like Darren kind of created his own, genre within the video game music world. So yeah, it just has blown me away. I mean, each game it's getting bigger and bigger, and the swell feels, greater and greater, and more people are starting to know. And it's like kind of hit this mainstream level now with Hades. And we've a lot of people at Supergiant, like it's gotten to parent level where like the parents are reading it in like Washington Post and whatever. And now it's like, oh, it's actually a thing. Like my parents would be like, oh, you're actually like doing something,
Yeah.
Which is just, yeah, if you're not in the world and you're not like an indie gamer and you don't follow it, it's kind of hard for you to figure out like, what is this music? Where does it go in the game? Are you a character? It's hard for some people to kind of understand.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think about in my small little sliver of Missouri that I live in, I tell people what I want to do. I tout myself as I'm the wannabe critic. Right. And, everyone's always to me, everyone's a wannabe, but it's like, whenever you tell people like, oh yeah, I want to work in the video game industry, they assume they get an idea in their mind that it's something different. And it's so comforting to hear like you say, yeah, people in my family and my circle are just now getting it. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like, and it really upsets me because, you think about like, I can't imagine how you feel because you actually like are legit. I can't imagine how that must feel for so long. Like it's taken this long to like, can you kind of elaborate on that? Like what has that, was that weird? Like whenever you start on Bastion, it's like, oh my God, like within the video game world, it is a smashing success, and obviously Transistor would follow. Did you ever have yourself kind of finding this weird thing of like having to validate what you were doing with your time? And like, were you ever irritated with people whenever you tell them that and they give you some kind of smart remark or whatever?
Yeah, not so much irritated. I sort of was just like, just you wait. Like you're gonna come around. You're gonna understand what this is. And I also think actually Abbey Road was another big moment for people in my circle to be like, wait, you're recording where? Like
Yeah.
what? You're doing what? So it's been a nice validation, but not one that I've needed. I think mostly because the community is so great, and like events that we've done, and even since the beginning, like, we had our first performance probably 10 years ago to just build that wall. And, you get what you need there. So I wasn't kind of searching for outward, approval or, what a validation, because I already get so much rich stuff from the Supergiant family. And it's just like insane how supportive and how kind and nice, like, you hear a lot about internet trolls and like terrible comments on videos, and it's just been like nothing but love, and like everyone wants Supergiant to succeed. So it's been a really great place to be in, even before it hit more of this like mainstream level, if that makes sense.
Totally. And that, there's such a humble air about Supergiant and like modest. And that's the thing that I keep hearing these stories about. I'll never forget. I feel like it was maybe a story about Red Dead or something like that. Is like it came out like, oh, there's all this crunch and blah 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 blah. And in my mind, my opinion of crunch has always been like, it's a video game. The people who are working hard on these games want to work hard on them. Let them work hard on them. Like, I think obviously there are horror stories and stuff like that, but it felt like that came out. And then right after that, I was like, Supergiant is forcing people to take vacation days. Like, it was like the most wholesome story of all time. And, that it shows how, and I'm sure I'm sure it is stressful to be a part of such a big production as each game gets bigger and bigger. I kind of wanted to ask you about that. Not so much like crunch culture, but as each game gets bigger, does it feel like there's more pressure, or does it feel kind of like how it's always felt?
Yeah, I mean, well, for me, I'm in a very unique position because I'm not doing the grind every day. Like I have sessions with Darren where I get to come in and just sort of be like, "Hello, family," like
Yeah.
get to walk around and see what people are working on and say hi and do my stuff and then get out. So it's always a joy for me. There's really never any like stress on my part because I have such a small contribution that like I know they are grinding, they're, fixing things, they're like getting new updates in. And I just kind of get to come in and like sprinkle some stuff and then walk away. So, but I think in terms of does it feel the same each game? It does, because the relationship with Darren and I has not changed at all. And like, we still record the same way and it still feels like the same process. It's not like we have a bunch of like people that are listening in to like give me critiques, so
Right.
It's more of a fun, intimate, recording session. And we always have fun. And we always get like, tea or like, snacks or something. And so, I don't know if that answers your question, but it feels the same.
No, it totally does. And that's the great thing about the Wannabe Critic podcast is there is no wrong answers. I'm not going to say, what the heck? That's not what I wanted.
You know what great.
I mean? That's, it comes across though in the music. Like, you play the games and you listen to it and like you hear the thing and it totally sounds like, and I have to be honest, back in 2012 or 2011, the first time I played Bastion, your things in your dumb young brain, like you just don't think about it as like, oh, I bet they're in love. You know what I mean? Like they have to be, like, just be able to sing like that, yada yada yada. Like they got to be dating or like whatever. So and I had seen like a video of you guys playing Build That Wall. I think it was just like a acoustic, type thing, and you guys were playing. I'm like, oh, they're totally. Yeah. You know what I mean? But obviously, through the years, I learned more. And it's like, oh, they're more like brother and sister, and it totally comes through, in the music. And you say you record the same way, Darren, shout out to him. That was like, I was telling my friends, like, guys, I got to interview like the Dave Grohl of video game music, basically. And it was a literal dream come true, because Build That Wall, that was the moment once I finished Bastion, like I had tears in my eyes because of just how impactful it was on me as a young person. I was like, I got to do something in games. Like if games can do this for somebody musically, obviously the dream would be to make music in the game industry, but it was that moment I was like, I have to find a job in the games industry so that I can somehow make music in the games industry someday, and shout out to Darren, because he was like super, super nice and like, was very generous with his time, and I even sent him some of my stuff to listen to, and he gave me very detailed notes to like, he's like, basically in not so many words, you suck. No, he was very gracious and very nice and very specific, and that meant the world to me. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. So whenever you guys sit down to record and like that, you say it is how it's always been, what does that session look like? I mean, what do those sessions look and feel like?
Yeah, well, typically he will send me the song with like a scratch vocal track that he does of my part so that I can envision what the song will be. So I sit with that for like a week or 2 weeks. I just like listen to it all the time, walk around with it in my headphones so I can just get really familiar with the music. And that's kind of how I learn best, as opposed to like, looking at sheet music and stuff. I just want to like listen to it. I want to feel it. He always gives me kind of background on, depending on which game it is and which character it is, where does this song fit in within the game, and like what is the story before and after, and like what context do I need to know about like the emotions and what is happening in the game. So I kind of do my homework and I listen to the song, and then I go in, and we usually try to like do it once through, and then we'll sort of pick out certain parts and then focus on that. So he'll be like, okay, in this part, why don't you be a little like more breathy, or like, let's really belt it out here, or like, try and be more vulnerable there. And we just sort of like break it down chunk by chunk. And then, yeah, that's about it. So and that's kind of how it works. And then sometimes we double the voices, and sometimes it's a joint session where I'm harmonizing to stuff that he's already laid, like the tracks that he's already done. So yeah, that's a very simplified version of the process.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Seems pretty, I mean, it would make sense too, because, and he and I kind of talked about this, like, I asked him basically, like, do you pretty much have an idea of how you want it to sound, before you even go into the studio? And he was like, yeah, I have pretty much the general idea of what I'm looking for, which is that's an amazing thing to be able to do. It's like, for me, it's more of those things like, I know exactly how I want the drums to sound, right? But for him, I bet it's like, oh, it should be this, you know what I mean? Like the entire thing should sound like this. And that's got to be a cool feeling. Has there ever been a time where you were like in a session and like, because some of the Hades music and also some of the Pyre music is very like, I don't want to say Celtic, because it's like ethereal in a way. Like it's just it's very big ideas. Was there ever a time you went into the studio to record it and you're like, holy crap, I don't know how he's going to make that sound amazing, or like, wow, this is really strange? I mean, can you speak to anything like that?
Not really. I mean, I sort of just like go in there and just trust him. Like, I do what he asks. Sometimes it's interesting that he will have me sing it in a way that I wouldn't have sung it if it was on my own, so that sort of is the magic of what he has in his mind in terms of how he wants it to sound. I will say some things, like he has very specific different kind of timestamps that can be hard for a vocalist to follow. So sometimes I'll like find myself like, not going in at the right beat, or like, just it's very specific. And there's a lot of that in Transistor actually, where we had to kind of like keep taking things again and again, because he just writes like such insanely awesome music that can sometimes be hard to follow.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. And I think about, I was listening to the new record last night, and I was thinking about the spine, and like that song in particular. It's a beautiful song, by the way. Great job. It feels like, just out of curiosity, because I mean, and I'm not trying to be insulting, it feels like that would have been a lot of work to try and get just right, because of how, like you're saying, like how specific it is, especially like with the harmonies. I was listening to it and I was trying to do it, and I was like, God, I can't, like, me as some, I'm just a wannabe, like I'm trying to like come in and hit a specific note, and I just couldn't, you know what I mean? It would take me like a beat or two later to be able to find the right note. In that song specifically, was it pretty easy for you to pick that one up, or was that one of those times where it's just like, okay, we got to keep doing this to get it specifically just right? If you can even remember, it's a super specific question.
I know. Well, it's like a very long time ago. So I know that there was a lot of times in Transistor that like things were harder, but I don't remember if the spine specifically was. I know We All Become was hard because we recorded the first chunk, which is just the part we used for the trailer, and then we came back to it like a year later, so trying to like match the intensity of like the trailer. And also there's a lot of like really high belty notes in that one, so I remember that being hard. but I don't know. I mean, the harmony stuff for me, that feels very second nature. Like we were talking before, I love harmonizing more than maybe anything. And I was in an a cappella group in college. So I'm like very nerdy in terms of harmony. So that to me isn't ever like daunting. I'm sort of like, oh yeah, I can like hear it and pick it up, so
Right. It
that's
just comes
maybe why
naturally
Darren
to
and
you.
I work. Yeah, that's I think why we are a good team, because I like to play
It just
around with
works.
music.
It just flows. And it is great. It is. I'm always curious, and it probably like sounds like such a. I talk to my friends. Like I remember sitting down with a friend of mine who's also a musician. I'm like, do you ever listen to a song and like say like, oh man, I wouldn't have done it that way? And he just looked at me and he's like, you're a prick. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and sometimes I will listen to songs, and the biggest question that comes to mind most of the time is how did they do that? Especially seeing the setup that y'all have to work with, and it's like it's always kind of been seems like a more minimalistic setup. There's not a orchestra really in the background, and I don't think there ever has been. It's usually just all Darren kind of putting stuff together. So really it's just kind of been you two. Has there ever been more times other than Abbey Road? I mean, has there ever been more musicians that came in the same time as you to do stuff?
No, yeah, Abbey Road was our first time, and that was like probably one of the more surreal moments of both of our lives, just like because we were in separate vocal booths, and then we could look out and see the entire orchestra, and we had Austin there, and it was like it just felt so alive, like, because not to say that it's not when it's just the two of us, but it was like, I don't know, there were more people and more energy, and it sounded different, and it was all live. So it was like singing while they were recording, which like usually he lays down all the instrumental and then I sing on top of it. So yeah, it was like a very cool way to record, and just felt like, yeah, I just want to do it again.
So you're telling me, okay, hold on a minute. So you're telling me that every single one of those songs was all done live, like in one take?
Yeah, I don't know if it was one take. I'm sure that in editing, we
Okay.
like kind of picked certain parts that we liked of the vocal tracks, but we recorded while they were playing. So, it was very much a together effort.
I mean, it was like
Yeah.
it's okay. So there was multiple takes of you guys all doing it together,
Yeah.
so kind of like how they used to do it, back when music was actually good.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot more sense. I thought that was the case, but I was just double checking. I was like, if they did
Yeah.
that
It wasn't
on
like a
one,
live album, like,
right,
where, we did kind of pick and choose our favorites.
right, yeah, that makes sense. I have a hard question for you, and if you can't answer it, that's fine. Because if I were you, I don't know if I could answer it. Do you have a favorite game that you worked on?
I mean, I don't know. I kind of could make a case for all of them, and it changes depending on my mood. The easy answer would be Transistor, just because there's so much more music, and it was like kind of the moment where I realized, oh, this is more than just Build That Wall, because Bastion was just Build That Wall, and sort of I was like, oh, that was fun. Like, kind of, it's over now. Like, whatever. And then when he asked me back, it was like, oh, whoa, this can go on. We can do more.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know. I mean, I think Hades might have been I don't know, today, because we won so many BAFTAs, I'm going to say Hades, because it just is like this whole new stratosphere for Supergiant. And it's been really fun to see since I've been around since the beginning. It's just great to see those guys kind of get their due. And I loved the tracks that I worked on. I loved Good Riddance, is I think one of my favorite songs we've ever done. So yeah, that's my answer today, but don't hold me to that being my answer tomorrow.
That makes sense. Yeah, again, like congratulations on all the BAFTAs. That has to feel, amazing. I have to ask also, I was watching the No Clip documentary, and, Greg Kasavin, is that how you pronounce his last name? Kasavin?
Yeah, Kasavin.
Kasavin. He was talking about how, on Steam, the game's maintained like 98%. consistently across the board, and it's like still there. I checked like a week ago and it's still there. Um, Obviously this is Supergiant's like most successful game, ever, and it's kind of crazy that it's only on 2 platforms right now. You, as being someone who has been a pretty, you say small part, like you've been a big part of Supergiant, in terms of like the music and stuff like that. How are you feeling right now? Like what's going through your mind like today?
Yeah, I think as those awards were coming in, it was just like feeling super grateful that I've been able to be a part, big, small, however you want to put it, of this larger just group of awesome people that have, followed their dreams and, doing something that they really wanted to do and then made it a reality. And that was always something that I wanted to do with music. I wanted to sing for a living, and I wanted to make something that would be out there for the rest of my life, and my kids could see, and I could have something tangible like a record that had my name on it. So I feel super, super grateful for just the opportunity to have been able to do not just one but 4 games, and continue to find opportunities to do shows and record new albums. So I think in a word, it would probably just be grateful.
Yeah, well, that's a great answer. Yeah, see, this is why I like this is amazing to me, because they say don't meet your heroes, you know what I mean? But like, sitting down talking with you, it's one of those things. It's like, wow, all these years listening to this music and playing these games, like these seem like genuinely nice people with like good intentions, and like it's like, yeah, man, we're just like along for the ride, like just whatever happens happens, and thank you for everything that we get. It's just super refreshing and like wholesome to hear that that's exactly how you're feeling right now, because I mean, Hades is going to go down as probably one of the greatest games ever made, I think, after it's all said and done. I'm super duper excited to see what comes next for Supergiant. Do you think, with everything that's coming, and this is just a personal question, I literally just thought of this, do you think that Supergiant will always try and like maintain the indie status, or do you think they'll ever try and do like there's this new like AA style that we talk about? Do you think they'll ever try and do something like that?
I'm probably not the right person to answer that. But I think across the board, they will try to keep the magic of Supergiant games intact, no matter what that means. I feel like even just seeing how far they've come from the beginning until now, and maintaining that sort of sense of, what's the word that you used?
Modesty?
I can't remember. Modesty, sure. Yeah.
Or humility?
Is humility, all those things. Yeah, I think they just, really want to make good games, and that's their biggest priority. It's never been anything else. So I think that it'll just continue to be that for their existence.
Well, I like that answer. I hope you're right, because they do have a specific feeling, that you get whenever you play them. So I hope that they continue that. So you say you're probably not the right person to ask. I do have to ask the question. Were you really ever a gamer before you got asked to do Bastion? Like, did you ever really play games or do anything like that?
No, I mean, I was like obsessed with Nintendo and like Super Nintendo, and I'm like a child of the 90s. So I played a lot of like Donkey Kong and, Duck Hunter and things like that. And I really could, hold my own in terms of Super Mario Brothers. But I didn't really keep it going, beyond childhood. And that's why I think I was so like unaware of what gaming had become. It's actually interesting. There's a lot of gamers in my family. Like my oldest sister works at 2K,
Oh, wow.
and it's just like, yeah. So I've been around it. She also helped like launch Sega. So I've always like been aware of, the gaming world, and have always had, games around, but I haven't been like a diehard gamer. And I'm terrible. I mean, I cannot play Transistor to save my life. I always just die
Why is
immediately.
it
That's
so
why
hard? It is a really hard game.
it's so hard. I'm so glad you're saying that because I always feel like the biggest loser. I'm like, I can't even play this game that I'm in. I can't even hear the stuff. Because I just die.
Yeah.
But that's why I like God mode on Hades, because they give me a little leg up there.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, whatever you have to do, you know what I mean, to get through it. And it's funny you mentioned Transistor because like I'm a huge Bastion fan, so they're in it, I'm a big Supergiant fan. I would follow the games and kind of like dabble in them, here and there as the years went on, and like would always listen to the music. The music's always been, a big thing to me because it's just so good. And like every time I sit down to play Transistor, I'm like, God, no matter how many times I jump back into it, I always think to myself, this is so hard. Like it makes me feel like an idiot because I know there's all these options and I know there's all these things you can do in the game, but I just suck at the game. But the sounds are so pretty. The sound design in general is just really good and everything just flows together. So it makes me want to keep going. But yeah, no, you're definitely not alone. So there you go.
I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah. And I think the Transistor humming stuff was, that's actually the best example I can give to anyone who doesn't know what I do. I'm like, okay, so there's this mode where when you're planning your attack, it's humming, but then when you get out, it's the song, it's like they just have done some really cool stuff with integrating the music in the gameplay, which I think is super unique and easy for me to help explain.
Yeah, no,
what I do.
Yeah, good. I'm glad they, good on them for being able to do that. So you basically just admitted in not so many words that you're not a gamer.
Guilty.
And that's okay. You know what? We're not going to judge you for it. I hope you enjoyed your time on the Wanna Be Critic podcast. No, I'm just
kicking me off.
Yeah.
No, I've been honest about that since the beginning, which I think actually makes this whole experience even more like awe-inspiring because I've learned so much about, the gaming world and the indie gaming world in particular. And, I like to do all my research. Like I want to know what a roguelike is. Like why is it called roguelike? And, I definitely like to dig into all that so that I actually know some stuff, even though I'm not a gamer.
Yeah, no, and I think that's good because it helps for opportunities like this, and it's just refreshing. It's refreshing to talk to someone who is who's in the industry and is just very honest. You and Darren have both been honest about it, and it's got to feel good knowing that you're not a gamer yet you're getting work doing something you really really enjoy doing. Has it opened any opportunities music-wise and career-wise for you outside of Supergiant where you've been like gotten a really cool offer for something, but just maybe couldn't really commit to being able to do it? I mean, what kind of doors have opened to you since you have been helping with been working with Supergiant for all these years?
Yeah, I mean, I think just kind of additional video game music opportunities and other mediums to do, like commercial jingles, like that kind of stuff. It's definitely opened doors to people who are working on that type of thing. I've always maintained that like, I just want to sing for a living. I don't want to be like a famous singer. So I will literally take, any job that can kind of help me keep that going and make that a reality versus being super picky. I just think it's so fun to be able to do what I love as like a source of income.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, what else can you ask for? I tell people like, oh yeah, I want to do YouTube and podcasts and like, be a content creator. And I started doing it and lo and behold, it gets me a job. But I'm not doing it for video games, which is fine. I'm doing it for other stuff, and that's one of those things that's like, like you said, you're getting to do something that you really enjoy doing. And I liked what you said about not really necessarily wanting to become famous. Like that, the desire to become famous is like, look, that'd be cool, which you are. I mean, you kind of are, you know what I mean? Like you are within like the video game world, you know what I mean? I think, especially like in the indie game community. And that's got to feel cool. You know what I mean? Can you kind of explain how it feels to know that people listen to songs that feature you like hundreds of thousands of times? I mean, like, what does that feel like?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, we've met a lot of people at meet and greets after shows, so we hear some stories which have made me be like, wow, this is insane that it's gotten to be this level. But we've heard people that like say it was their wedding song. Like Paper Boats is a lot of people's wedding song, which I would not have thought I would ever have been someone who sang a song that was at someone's wedding, you know, their first dance or whatever. And we've seen like tattoos of lyrics, and we've seen like, you know, people saying this is the only song, like Good Riddance. I've heard a lot of people say this is the only song that will get my baby to go to sleep, you know, like things like that. So it's really cool to have reached outside of the gaming experience. Like this music kind of lives on its own, separate from the game, which I don't know too many like video game, you know, musicians that can say the same. You know, it's just, it feels like it reaches people on a different level that's like bigger than the game. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's relatable, you know, and I think, you know, art is art, and it doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter. The songs are good by themselves. You know what I mean? Even without the gaming experience to go along with it. And I think it does totally transcend the genre, you know, and does transcend the medium. It's just, it's one of those things like right place, right time. And it has gotten to be each time a new game comes out, you know, I just feel like it continues to add even to just the musical experience. And it's like, look, hey, AAA developers, AA developers, whatever, like take notes, because this is what your game can do for people, even just with the music. So yeah, no, that's really cool to hear you kind of talk about, man, wedding song, really? Paper Boats.
Yeah, Paper Boats.
Huh. I would have never guessed that, but that's got to feel, you know, that's got to be an honor for you. It's like, wow.
It is.
Thanks.
Oh yeah. Huge honor for sure.
That's amazing. So I heard a story about how it was kind of like on a whim, and I feel like you guys were going to be in London or something like that. And it was kind of like a spur of the moment thing. And you're like, yeah, we're doing a show. And it was like, you didn't have very much time to prepare, and like it sold out, or like 700 people showed up or something like that. Is that what happened? I can't remember exactly how I heard that, but.
Not exactly. It was like we were going to go to London for the Supergiant, you know, Songs of Supergiant album at Abbey Road. And we figured while we're over there, we might as well do a show, because we have actually a lot of really dedicated international fans, which is like something that is so cool to see. So I guess there had been a lot of people that had been asking for a UK show. So we kind of planned it in tandem with the Abbey Road, you know, and obviously we couldn't tell anyone that we were recording at Abbey Road because it was like a big secret. But you are right that I think it did sell out, or whatever that, you know, is. There was a lot of people, way more people than I thought were going to be there. And it was probably my favorite show experience maybe ever, because it was just like, people were so into it. They were singing along. There's like a clip that Austin took, actually, because he was in the audience, of Build That Wall. And it was like the entire room was singing the lyrics. And I felt like one of those superstars where, you know, someone is singing your song and you don't have to sing it, and you're just like putting the microphone to them. Right. And it brought tears to my eyes. It was just like this moment where I was like, here are all these people that live so far away from me, and they know the song that I sang. You know, it was just kind of a crazy moment and really fun.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Yeah, it would be one of those things like, even if 10 people sang it back to you, you know, in London, they know your song and like they're singing it back to you. I mean, I don't know. I'd probably just cry, you know?
Yeah, I did. That's what happened.
I mean, I can't imagine how you must have felt, you know? And I mean, whenever you and like Darren play live and like you have these experiences, like, do you ever just look at each other and be like, how did this happen? Like, is there kind of like a mutual energy there a little bit? Because obviously, you know, every musician, whether, I don't care who you are, no one wants to say like, oh, I just want to be a studio musician. Nobody. If you do, I don't believe you. You're a liar. Like, so to be able to play a show like that, and know that the people are just so passionate about it. I mean, have you guys ever like had that moment of like, holy crap, can you believe this type thing? Like,
Yeah, I think that show for sure. And then, we played 2 shows with the orchestra. One was in Boston and one was in Seattle. And those also, I think, were moments. I think it was more like in the rehearsal that he and I were like, holy crap, this is like insane. And there are musicians here. And it's just that life that I was talking about when we recorded at Abbey Road. So yeah, lots of like big eyes to each other.
yeah, I can't even imagine. I played
Yeah.
I had released like this EP and played like a local coffee shop one time, and like 5 people sang it back to me, and I was like, I'm gonna be the freaking next Ed Sheeran. Like, I am on the road. I was
Hey,
like
there's still time. Make it happen.
17. I think I want to do podcasting, for a while and, see what happens. I need to get my end first and then be like, I know how to play music. I can play music too. And I know how to do it. You know what I mean? So no, we'll see what happens. Maybe someday. I have to ask too, I think the music is very unique, and I think the style is very unique and your voice is very unique. So my natural question is, what were some of your like vocal inspirations, throughout your life? What have been like your biggest inspirations?
Yeah. Well, I love jazz. I love like old singers. I love Ella Fitzgerald and Billie Holiday. So that's kind of like where I first, found, amazing women singers, probably that kind of genre. I also was very into musical theater when I was in, like elementary school and high school. So watched a lot of old movies like Judy Garland and, really just amazing singers back in the 40s and 50s. And then when I got older, just really got into a lot of like singer-songwriter stuff, a lot of folk music. I love Bonnie Raitt. She's someone that when I saw her like in a restaurant and lost my mind. I couldn't even handle that she was there because she's such a badass. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I also have a pretty low voice, so I gravitate towards a lot of singers that kind of sing more in the alto, lower range. So like there's new singers like Rachel Price, who sings on Lake Street Dive. If you're familiar, you're probably not, but
It sounds super familiar. That it does sound familiar, but I cannot place it. But it does. That name does ring a bell for sure.
Yeah, she has a crazy voice. It's like something that I crossed a whole festival to figure out what it was. I was like, this is a voice I need to know. Where is it coming from? Yeah, so it kind of all over the place. I mean, my husband is really into like metal and like Nine Inch Nails. So like, I listen to it all and I can find appreciation in so many different types of music. I just love music.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always 2 big ones. It's like, oh, I listen to everything. I love everything. It's like country and metal. Are you sure? It's like, yes, I'm sure. I like it all for sure. That's really cool. So is your husband a gamer at all? Or is it like,
yeah, I mean, more so than me. He played through Hades. He finished it, which is great. He definitely spent a long time doing his runs on Hades. So, but he's not, and I think he was more before we met. And then, I don't know, ironically, when he met me, he wasn't as much of a gamer, even though I was just starting my stuff. So yeah, no, but we always joke that he's like my manager because he comes along to all the things and like holds my bag and, waits and gives me a Sharpie if like we're doing autographs and stuff like that. It's very funny, but yeah, he's
really
been
cool.
great.
Yeah, that's really cool. I see you guys I follow you on Instagram. So, I see like your stories and stuff like that. And it seems like you guys have a pretty adventurous life and looks like you actually like to enjoy life, unlike me in my cave,
Yes.
So no, like I told you off mic, we have cows and stuff, but it's really kind of cool to kind of hear your background and like kind of be able to kind of put 2 and 2 together and realize like, hey, she's just another person, like just trying to make it in the world.
Regular
like,
gal.
Yeah, just a regular person. Yeah. It's like, oh, I sang on Hades. I do have a question too about like, because I know I didn't realize that Darren had done Zagreus's voice. I didn't even think about it. so because it's like he's not going to say anything about it, obviously, because he's just that kind of person. Did you do more voice work on Hades other than singing, like more than you're like letting on type thing?
I did not. No, I just did the singing. The Eurydice voice is a woman by the name of Francesca, who is so sweet and amazing. We're friends on Twitter. So we are very supportive of each other,
Cool.
sharing this role. But no, I think it's great that Darren did that. And Logan said something today in his acceptance speech saying how they're so happy to have dusted Darren off from his acting. Because, you know, he was definitely more of an actor like in high school. And like, you know, that's how we kind of met, well, not in that, but like by way of us both being involved in theater. So it is fun to see him kind of do more of that. And I don't know, maybe I will at some point, but I feel so much more comfortable singing than I do voice acting. So we'll see.
Yeah, see what happens. I mean, never say never. You know what I mean?
Never say never. Yeah, that's true.
I know you have to go, you know, here in a few minutes, but I just have a couple more questions.
Sure.
Has there been any moment like, or any people that you've met where like you've like, because I know, you know, a lot of these there's people that go to gaming events, you know, other than people in the gaming industry, you know, and stuff like that. Has there ever been somebody you met and you were like kind of starstruck that you had been able to meet them?
Like at specific gaming events?
Just in general, like, you know, it doesn't have to be gaming events. I mean, it could be anything really. I mean,
well, what first came to mind was when I first met Austin Wintory. That was like just so crazy because I had heard a lot of his music. I'd listened to a lot of Journey and, you know, known that he was kind of like a big deal in the video game music world. So found out that he was going to be helping us with our orchestra show, and like meeting him and talking to him, he was a big inspiration of just like, you got to do more stuff and like get out there and, you know, that kind of stuff, kind of like spread your wings. So meeting him was cool. And now we're like friends, which is really cool. I will say actually another person that was like epically big for me, which is by way of my Bastion and Transistor work, was actor Anthony Rapp. I don't know if you know him, but
God, that name sounds so familiar.
He's in the new Star Trek, and he was the original Mark on Rent, or in Rent on Broadway back in like the 90s.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
And he's been in like Dazed and Confused. Yeah, he's like a huge deal. And anyhow, he reached out to me on Twitter after Transistor and was like, I love your work. Like he just DM'd me, or I think he tweeted at me and then we DM'd, I can't remember, but we got connected and then we ended up like having dinner in New York and have continued like a relationship purely based off of his love of games and like his appreciation for Supergiant. And I think that was probably one of the moments where I was like, oh, like this is like a thing. Like people like this stuff,
yeah,
you know,
famous people like me. No, he's the funny guy in Adventures in Babysitting, right?
Yes, he's also in Adventures Babysitting.
Yeah, that's cool. And that's gotta feel cool, like to, you know, meet someone and have an idea of in your head. It's like it's like I have a million things prepared. Like if I ever meet Dave Grohl in real life, I know exactly what I'm gonna ask him. And I don't know if he was like on that level for you, but it's got to feel kind of cool, like knowing that your work means to someone that you really admire, you know, and like, yeah, you know, that's got to feel cool. And now you're friends. So look at that. There you go.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing.
I think it's just cool. You put stuff out into the universe and then you never know who's going to see it, pick it up, relate to it, you know, have it be meaningful, like you and build that wall for Bastion. Like, you know, it's just, you never know what's the like butterfly effect.
Yeah, no, you just don't know how many different doors are going to open in whatever pattern. And, you know, if you had because literally, I'm not even kidding you, Ashley, like after I played that game, I played it like literally the next day I sat down and played it on New Game Plus all the way through, like in 5 hours. I was like, I have to play this game again right now. And I played it in one sitting again, just to be able to kind of feel that experience, you know, at the end of the game. I chose the other ending. And right after that, after I had it fresh in mind, I was like, I have to talk about this somehow. I don't know how. So I started a blog like on Tumblr, and I was like, I guess I'm gonna put this out there, clackety clackety clack, you know. And had that not happened, I wouldn't be here right now, because it was at that moment I was like,
Yeah.
I have to get started somehow. And
That's
I was in
awesome.
high school. Like, that's kind of how crazy time flies. It's
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
So no, I can totally relate. And I never would have thought that I never would have thought that I'd be sitting here talking to you, for sure. And I never thought I would have gotten a chance to talk to Darren. So, you know, it's kind of amazing how worlds get to collide like that. So, you know,
Totally.
it's pretty amazing.
I'm so glad that I could be some small part of that journey for you.
Yeah, no, I think it was one of those things. I don't know why I get it in my head sometimes. Like, I feel like I send out 100, hey, will you come on this podcast and be, you know, come talk to me for a little bit. I feel like I was sending out so many of those, and you just get told no so many times. You know what I mean? Like, no, I can't. And half the time
Until
people,
someone says yes.
yeah, exactly. And with it's kind of, I'm like high on the horse right now, because I asked Darren, he said yes, and then I asked you literally right after I interviewed Darren. I was like, I would love to talk to Ashley Barrett. So, you know, and here we are. You know, it's been a month later or whatever. So, so my final question, you know, kind of just a last little talking point. What's next for you? You know, I know Bastion's like, or not Bastion, Hades is getting all this publicity, and it's like, it's doing so great, and it's so high on everybody's list. I get kind of
Yeah.
burpy. I get kind of burpy during the podcast a little
That's
bit. You know what I
okay.
mean? It happens.
We're
Um,
human. It happens.
yeah. What's next for you?
Well, definitely along for the ride for Supergiant. So whatever we're going to be working on next, which is exciting. I know right now it's like we can't even think about anything next because there's so much, you know, still going on. Everyone is still so busy with Hades stuff. So whatever that will be awesome. And then Darren and I have played around with some ideas of like kind of doing some other projects. We're playing around with doing some, I can't really talk about a lot of the things because I feel like it's, you know, spoiler alerts, but there's more stuff to come. There's more things that will be put out there that are done by Darren and myself.
Okay, well, good, because I thought, you know, I was like, at no point have I thought like, okay, well, I guess we're gonna wrap this thing up. Like, all right, guys, we're done. You know what I mean? Like,
And I did. I thought that like Bastion was my one and done. And then Transistor, I was like, that's nice. They asked me back. And then Pyre, I was like, you still want to work with me? You know, because at that point I was like, you could get any singer you want. You could find, you know, whoever. You could hire Anthony Rapp.
You yeah, he could probably sing that high, I bet. Yeah, I mean, but it just wouldn't be the same, Ashley. It would not be
So
a
nice.
Darren Korb and, you know, Ashley Barrett duo. And it's insane, the level of emotion y'all bring to the table. And I, for one, don't know. I basically owe pretty much everything that I've done so far to that one moment that I'll never forget. So, you know, there's that. It's been an absolute dream to have you on the podcast, and I really appreciate it. And
Thank you
I
for
can't.
having me.
Oh, absolutely. I cannot wait to see what's next, for sure. So I'm going to be, I check Twitter every day, multiple times a day. You know what I mean? So I'll be waiting, and I follow you and Darren both, and you've made a promise here on the Wannabe Critic podcast. So I better see something, you know, or there will be hell to pay.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay. Yeah. You know, you heard it here first. There will be things.
There will be things. Love it. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, awesome. Well, Ashley, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Your time for coming on. I guess, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Wannabe Critic podcast, the Ashley Barrett episode, right?
Yes.
And it's been a pleasure to have you. Before we go, though, I almost forgot. We do have to do the housekeeping thing. I would try to keep it towards the end of the episode these days. Shout out to our Patreon producers. We have Sage and Clove. We have HH Wax Bar. We have Luke Collins. And we have Zoe Chanel also. So thank you all to those. You guys can peep all the links down below and check out all that stuff. So Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for preparing yourselves for a plethora of hot takes and potentially unpopular opinions. We will see you next time. Say goodbye, Ashley.
Goodbye, everyone.
Whatever possessed you to check out the podcast or the YouTube channel today, I just want to say thank you so much for doing so. If this is your first time here, I would appreciate it, if you would consider subscribing. As you can tell, it's not just me here anymore. I mean, I do stuff by myself, but the podcast is going to reside here from now on, in video form. So if you want to see more content, if you want to be notified, every time we post something, whether it be a clip, a podcast, a review, an interview, whatever it may be, if it's gaming stuff, make sure you click that bell and hit the subscribe button, and we will see you next time. Thanks for sticking around, and thank you for preparing yourselves for a plethora of hot takes and potentially unpopular opinions. I'm Gabriel Fast. I will always be the wannabe critic.